This is Natural Powerlifting Radio. Deadlifts, chicken nuggets, video games. This is Check My Total, a powerlifting podcast with Timothy Payne and Andrew Hinson.
Welcome everybody to another episode. This episode, we talk about one of the first hardcore powerlifting gyms in the United States, Westside Barbell today. Well, if you're in powerlifting and haven't been, living under a rock, first off, you probably know what Westside is and who Louie Simmons is. But this week or last week, Netflix got the documentary Westside versus the World. And I want to say the first time this was premiered was at the Arnold back in March. But anyways, it's on Netflix now, so Andrew and I watched it, and we're just going to give our thoughts on what we thought about the documentary and what we think about Westside.
Yeah. So I thought whatever company did the actual documentary and the cinematography and stuff, I thought they did a decent job. They even somehow scrounged up old clips.
Yeah. The director's name is Michael Fahey. I think I'm saying that right. And he was actually one of the editors for the documentary Forks Over Knives. So he's got a little bit of history doing these documentaries. I think I listened to him do an interview last night. I watched it after I watched the documentary. I think that that Forks Over Knives documentary was his first time being, an editor, his first real job.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like this 6'3" guy from, I want to say Texas, but I'm not sure if that's right. But he grew up playing high school football, and his dad, I want to say, was a coach. But his dad, when he was playing football, was the one strength training him. So he basically put, this director, Michael Fahey, on the Conjugate Method and taught him about Westside and everything. So when he went to work on Forks Over Knives, he would always wear his Westside hoodie. And, everybody out in California and LA, they were like, what is Westside?
Yeah.
It's a different way of thinking out in California. Everybody's going to work and, sitting on their stability balls and all kinds of mess. But anyway, he basically told one of the people he was working with, a producer, about Westside. And a couple of years later, this producer calls him up and is like, hey, do you want to do that Westside story as a documentary? And that's how it got started up. But this guy's dad, Michael's dad, little did Michael know that every week or two, Michael's dad would call Louie Simmons and talk to him on the phone every week. So it's funny, Michael was talking to his dad and was like, yeah, this producer, she asked me about, the Westside story and was wondering if I wanted to make a documentary. And then, he was saying, I don't think Louie would do it. So anyways, Michael's dad calls up Louie Simmons one day, and this is still unbeknownst to Michael. And then after Michael, I'm a real bad storyteller, as y'all can tell. But anyways, Michael's dad turns around and calls Michael after getting off the phone with Louie and is like, hey, you got an appointment with Louie Simmons. So a week goes, well, actually, no, he calls him at 12 o'clock in the morning LA time or something and says you have an appointment with Louie Simmons at 9 o'clock. But his dad is still living in the East, so it's Eastern time. So really his 9 o'clock appointment was 6 o'clock in the morning the next day.
Yeah.
So the first time Michael speaks to Louie on the phone, Louie Simmons is like, yeah, we're not doing the documentary. But then every week, it might have been every day, but every week Michael would call Louie Simmons, and, the more they talked on the phone, the more they got to know each other, Louie was eventually like, yeah, y'all can come in. But even then, Michael kind of got fed up with Louie and was basically like, I'm already working on a project, but in 1 year I'm going to be free. So let's just go ahead and prepare to do this thing in a year. And Louie kind of agreed to it. And that's how the documentary got made.
Yeah. So it was an interesting story. I think most people know kind of what Louie's about with the whole conjugate method and his crazy gym folks. But I think one of the interesting parts is they talk about that they had a night crew and a day crew.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting. Which maybe the documentary said this, but I forget because Louis doesn't really like many people, so I'm surprised he would allow a night crew to train without him. But I forget exactly how that came about.
Yeah, they didn't really explain that all that well, I don't think, because it kind of sounded like to me this night crew just started working out there, but like you said, Louis wasn't a part of it. I don't know, that part I thought was kind of lost in translation.
Yeah.
Like, I'm with you. Like, yeah, the night crew started up, but I really don't understand how or why.
It was interesting. It'd be kind of like if when y'all had a gym, if y'all trained in the morning with everyone, and then a bunch of random people just showed up at nighttime when you weren't there.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that he allowed that. I don't know. I don't really know what the idea behind that was.
And it always sounded like, it was AM versus PM. Like, they were never on the same side.
Yep, never on the same side.
And if you switched from one crew to the other, like the other crew that you were with hated you.
Yeah.
It was pretty cutthroat. But yeah, back when we had our gym, it was kind of similar. We had a raw lifting crew, raw and drug free, and then we had our geared, drugged up guys lifting. And even then, eventually, those geared guys split up into two different groups. It became like a AM PM group. But yeah, Dad, the guy that owned the gym, he was there 24/7.
Yeah.
But it even sounded like Louie wasn't even there for the night crew. That's the way the documentary makes it come off. I don't know if it was really like that.
Yeah. I don't know how you want to how do you want to go about this? We're gonna hit some points and just discuss our views.
I wrote some notes down, so I thought it was interesting they got Ron Perlman to narrate it. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, that was an interesting choice.
I think Ron Perlman, he's gritty and he's got a good voice, so I thought that was kind of cool. So at the very beginning of the documentary, this guy is attempting like a 1,100-pound squat, and I guess he hits it because it's like he's hitting his last warm up or something in the warm up area, or maybe it's his second attempt. He's talking about how crappy it felt. And, it's this big juiced up dude. His eyeball is about to pop out of his head wearing a canvas suit.
Yeah, I think it was Dave Hoff.
Was it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the beginning opened up with Dave Hoff.
Okay. And then, well, I don't know what the number was, but I wrote down 1,100, somewhere in that ball game. And then, he finally gets the squat on his third attempt, and then they show him off the stage, and he's got like oxygen in his nose, and then he says, "Welcome to powerlifting."
Yeah.
I just thought, oh man, all these people that have no clue what powerlifting is, like all these random just normal Joes that turn on Netflix one night and this is what they watch. Like it's kind of sucky. This is their introduction into powerlifting, the extreme, gear and drug head.
Yeah. It's an interesting way to open it up for your average goer, but I guess at the same time it also kind of lays the groundwork for the craziness that these people at this gym go through.
Yeah. It was definitely a crazy time because I kind of lived through some of it. I guess Westside really got crunk up in the late 80s. But
Yeah.
like they were talking about in the documentary, that early 2000s group, Chuck Vogerpool and Kenny Patterson, that's all the guys I remember and all the guys our guys competed against. But
So did y'all did your guys go to the WPO or
yeah, so back in the early 2000s, which they kind of talk about this in the documentary too, how they lift with the APF, or maybe they didn't even talk about it, but I saw like T-shirts and stuff. So the APF is who you would lift with to basically get your qualifying numbers to lift in the WPO. So you know how you usually want to hit about 2 meets a year.
yeah.
So our guys would go to like APF seniors, which I think when we were going, it was in Atlanta. So they would hit their qualifying numbers, and then WPO used to be what was at the Arnold in Columbus, which that's kind of a funny story how the USAPL took over the WPO. Just kind of off on a tangent. Back in 2000, I don't know, 2007, maybe 2008, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
The FBI or DEA or somebody rolls up in the to the Arnold and drug tests like all the bodybuilders and stuff. And I actually think it was like the fitness models, the women, whatever they call the women bodybuilding. There's like two different things. There's bodybuilding and then I want to say they're just called fitness, or I don't know. But anyways, I think it's actually the women that they popped for all the steroids and everything, and then they tested the men. But that's the reason they quit bringing the WPO in, because now Arnold's like, well, we got to change our reputation. So they got rid of a bunch of the sports like powerlifting. So WPO got kicked out of the Arnold, and that's how USAPL even got involved with the Arnold.
Mm.
Which actually, now that I'm thinking of it, they might have actually ran the WPO and USAPL, like both of them. But then once they kicked the WPO out, USAPL became the big thing at the Arnold, as far as powerlifting goes. But yeah, anyways, our guys lifted with the WPO. So you'd lift with APF, get your qualifier, then go to WPO in Columbus. That was the big show. They kind of mentioned this in the documentary too. The WPO is, well, it stands for World Powerlifting Organization, and that's they give you a check for winning your weight class, and then I think if you like the best lifter or something, you get another cut.
Dude, didn't y'all's dudes win a couple?
Yeah. The documentary mentions kind of the fall of Westside, which they haven't completely fell off, but they started, I guess you could say they started crumbling in about 2000. The documentary says 2007 is when Chuck Vogerpool left, and that's really when the separation of Westside began.
Yeah.
But I want to say our top 220 guy beat Chuck Vogerpool. It's either 2003 or 2004. And then, like I said, the couple of years after that, a different guy from our gym won the show. But yeah, we beat Westside, that 220 class, 2 or 3 times in a row.
There you go.
Officially, it was just 1 year when those guys were with us because we, shut down the gym.
Yeah.
All the roids and everything, which I think we told in our very first podcast. But those other 2 guys that won, they were our guys,
So hey, we got some cred when we talk about this stuff.
Yeah, it's just I don't want to say their names because I don't want to give them any credit. I know they ain't giving us any, so it ain't even worth bringing up if you really think about it. But
that's true.
And our guy was the first guy to beat Ed Cohn's total, but he's wearing gear that was 10 times better than anything Ed Cohn wore, you know.
Yeah.
So it's all relative to the time. And then, you know, Ed Cohn got his big total because he was one of the first ones to take drugs. So how are you going to compare him to the Raw guy that he beat? You know. And then today, everybody that's whooped up on our guys, the gear and stuff's even more space age.
Yep.
That's the problem with this gear lifting. You can't compare any of it. I mean, at least if somebody is raw, and even if they are shooting up drugs, you can still compare it. But even raw is getting a little bit out of hand, the way knee wraps and sleeves and stuff are coming along.
Yeah.
So the really the only thing that you compare is, you know, somebody pure raw, like no belt, no wraps. You can compare that to something, you know, Paul Anderson did.
Good old Paulie.
Yeah, that's my little tangent. But I was reminded of this story watching the documentary. I knew Louie broke his back once, and that's what compelled him to create the reverse hyper. But I had no clue he broke his back twice.
Yeah.
So that's kind of crazy. But I thought it was interesting how he broke his back and, you know, created the reverse hyper, but then kept it a secret for like 15 years before he even tried to patent it and sell it.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's kind of his mentality, you know, which is, I guess you have to be that way. If you got a secret and it's working and you're competing against other people, I guess you need to keep it to yourself.
That's right. You gotta get your advantages where you can.
Another interesting thing that I wrote down in my notes is Donnie Thompson.
Oh yeah.
He said the line, gear is less dangerous than lifting raw.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I agree with that completely.
Yeah, I don't know.
I feel like it can give you more longevity, but I don't think it's less dangerous. If anything, it's more dangerous because you're overloading your joints and stuff that aren't ready to hold that kind of weight. Like your bones and stuff just aren't dense enough because you're using this suit to get, you know, an extra 500 pounds out of your squat. So, I don't know. You might be able to lift longer, but I don't think it's any safer.
Yeah, I think it'll give you some longevity, but safer or not, I don't know.
Well, what'd you think about old Matt Dimmel and his story?
Oh, that was pretty crazy, man.
That dude was a big man.
What they say he was? 380?
380, and I think he was another one of these like 6'3" guys.
Yeah, man, the big boys. You know, it just kind of reminds you of like the old days. Like there was none of this like, oh, got to get the good lighting in the mirror for the gram.
Oh, yeah.
It was just people that were nuts. They just wanted to get stronger. There was none of this like just fake stuff.
Yeah. Which I should have said this earlier, but we're not dissing Westside. Like, I have kind of a weird view of it because they were always our competitor, our enemy. But you got to respect what Westside did and what Louie did with creating Conjugate Method. Well, he didn't create it, but he made it popular in the U.S.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we respect him, but, you know, at the end of the day, we were still trying to whoop him. But, yeah, just to go back to what you were saying, that's one of the reasons I love Louie. When he made his gym, you know, he found an old building in the ghetto. He didn't go out and get the nicest equipment or anything like that. I thought one of the cool things was how he welded, you know, 200-pound plates on a bar.
Oh, so yeah.
You had to squat 245 to even lift in that rack.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. His little dungeon, the first thing he had reminded me of Cravy's gym in his basement. Crazy
didn't clean his basement.
No, it was a lot of chalk, man. There was a lot of plates and chalk just laying around.
But just to get back to Matt Dimmel, and for anybody that hasn't watched this documentary yet, Matt Dimmel was the first guy to well, I don't know if he was the first guy ever to squat 1,000 pounds. Is that what happened?
I think so. I think he
Oh.
was the first to hit
Well,
over.
maybe he was. But anyways, he was the first name to come out of Westside. So he squatted 1,000 pounds and got the world record. And this is what put Westside on the map. What propelled Louie Simmons to become a guru. But he was 34 when he died, and the way he died is ridiculous. You remember what happened?
Yeah, he got with his girlfriend at the time.
Yeah.
And shot up. What? She combined it. It was heroin and something.
Cocaine.
Yeah.
Both of them. It said shot it into his arm at the same time, and he OD'd.
Man.
Could you imagine trying to move a 380-pound dude out of the house?
Dude.
Or wherever they were at.
Yeah, and he's already like bled out.
Yeah, dead.
Whew.
Another thing that got me thinking is how they briefly talked about Big Iron, like them being the ones to challenge Westside.
Yeah.
I was like, man, if we didn't shut the gym down, that would have been us, House of Payne.
Yeah.
Because we had it rolling, dude.
Dude, you did.
And it's funny, the last couple of times we went to the WPO, the lifters were actually trying to get Dad to agree to run the WPO, like the thing at the Arnold, because of how well we ran events.
Yeah.
So them guys at the Arnold were wanting us to run it. So that was kind of funny.
So he, like you said, he kind of brought the conjugate method to the public in America, but
Louie did, yeah.
Yeah, and so what? I guess what is your opinion on the conjugate method, like based on how y'all train your equipped people, and I guess we can talk about kind of what the conjugate method could be for a raw lifter.
So the good thing is, which I don't know if you want to call it good, but our guys were juicing, which we weren't a part of that. That's the reason we shut the gym down. So they were on the drugs and they were using multiply. So we could, literally take exactly what Louie was doing and apply it to our guys because they were doing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Dad went to 2 seminars in the early 90s. Well, not early 90s, but late 90s at Westside. Like, he went up there and listened to Louie talk all day. And the good thing about Louie is that he's upfront about saying how he's on drugs and how, all his guys are using multiply equipment. What I thought was interesting about the documentary is that the only mention of drugs is him talking about the first time he met Matt Dimmel. He said something to the effect of, I told Matt Dimmel to, eat all he could and take all the drugs that he could to get big and strong or something like that. Anyways, it's some kind of line like that in passing. But unless I completely missed it, that's the only time I think steroids are referenced in that documentary.
Yeah, I don't remember many more. They might have been, but they were just small in passing.
Yeah. But I've already forgot what your question is. Oh, yeah. So we really didn't have to change all that much because our guys were doing the exact same stuff. Now, the great thing about Dad and what he did with all our drug-free guys at the gym is that he did take that conjugate method and make it, to where a drug-free person could do it. And a lot of it is just kind of spreading your days out. Instead of being on like a 5-day rotation, you're more on a 7-day. Just it's a recovery time thing because you're not pumping drugs to get recovered.
Yeah.
So, and we weren't on the box as much as what Louie likes people to be on the box. Talking about squatting.
Yeah.
They pretty much religiously stay on the box. I think even their max effort stuff's on a box.
Yeah, I think so.
But that's one thing that we do different. I think it's the way to go. It's the way to train. You know, having 4 days, too heavy, too. And
Yeah.
when you listen to Louie talk, it makes sense that if you have a sticking point, it should be your sticking point if you're trying 200 pounds or 400 pounds. So the reason you can't get through a lift is because you're not fast enough, which is why he started, you know, having a dynamic day.
Hmm.
Like the way he explains it in the documentary, it's along the lines of you're cutting down, you know, you're cutting down your volume and you're working up heavy for the meet, which you're not conditioned enough to like handle the heavy weight, I think is what he was getting at.
Yeah.
And that's when he started to research, you know, the Russians and everybody and trying to figure out what they were doing. But yeah, I think it's the way to go, to keep your technique and still train optimally.
True. A raw lifter, like you said, you know, can definitely do box squats and stuff, but you know, that's not your competition form.
Right. And
So
as far as going raw, you can't stay on the box 24/7 because the reason those guys can stay on the box is because they're wearing a squat suit.
yeah.
So when they take the box away, they're sitting back into their squat suit, which is acting as the box. When you're raw and you take the box away, there's nothing there to catch you anymore because you're not wearing this, you know, super canvas suit. So that's why them guys could get away with doing box squats 24/7.
Yep.
So I definitely do them, but not every day.
Good old conjugate method. Plus, it's one way just to not get burnt out as much.
Yeah.
You're not doing the same thing all the time. I think another thing is like what I've done a lot with y'all is they were really big on the bands, which is good and stuff, but we never used bands that were pulling you down more than twice a week, or really even once a week.
And even then,
And
you know, it'd be 2 weeks in a row, and it'd be like a month before we got back to them.
yeah,
Yeah, I guess that's the difference too, which goes back into the drugs and gear. They can recover faster. So doing regular bands to where they're tied to the floor, it taxes your nervous system more than doing a reverse band. So yeah,
mm-hmm.
that's the difference too. But that's the reason why we do reverse bands more. Because, like I said, it's all about your recovery. Recovery's got more to do with getting strong than actually being in the gym.
Yeah.
So another person that I forgot about until I watched the documentary was Amy Weisberger. Like I remember seeing her at the WPO and stuff, but I guess I just completely blocked her out of my brain until I watched the documentary again. But it was neat seeing her and remembering watching her at the WPO. So the neat thing about Amy is to even qualify for the WPO, all they had was men's totals, like total numbers. So whatever weight class Amy was, I don't remember. She qualified because she hit the men's total to go lift. So that's pretty beast.
Yeah, I was very impressed with her numbers, and just kind of what she did for women at the time.
Yep. I remember when we went to the Arnold, I think there were like 3 women that lifted in the WPO. I got AJ Roberts' name written in my notes, but I can't remember why I have him written. Like I was going to make a point about him, but I don't remember. What happened with AJ Roberts? I know he left the gym, didn't he?
I'm trying to remember which one he was.
He was the guy. He's kind of one of those newer guys that could translate what Louie said to the. He became like one of the group leaders.
Oh, uh, Was he the? Was he the? Who was the old? Who was the old bald dude that
With
showed
the
up?
beard?
Yeah, with the beard that kept showing up in the documentary.
I think he was just a hype man. Like, I don't even know if he competed. You know what I mean?
No. Oh, are we talking about the same person?
I don't know. You
Bald
talking
old
about the
guy.
guy that said his son was like a state
Oh
swimmer
yeah,
or
state
something?
swimmer, and he never came to nothing.
Yeah. Isn't that sad? It's like, you're going to give because
That
they had bench
yeah.
pressing on Wednesdays or whatever.
Yeah, I guess that's one thing I think I wanted to bring up was what was the dedication these people had and what they sacrificed, and was it dedication or was it just outlandish? I guess
All right.
like
To kind of tack on to this message, one of the things the documentary brings up is why with this new movement, which is not a new movement, everything just goes in cycles. With this new movement of raw powerlifting, why hasn't Westside, got into raw powerlifting and dominated everybody like they've been doing in Multiply? And one of the connections I think is these guys that are willing to take the drugs and wear the crazy gear and everything. The reason, okay, I remember now. So Westside had what, 4 dudes or something that had all the world records for all the raw stuff. Like they had one good bench presser, one good squatter, one good deadlifter,
yeah.
all raw. And then they talked about that Dave Hoff, how it took him like 10 years to get to the top of the gear world, but then when he got out of the gear, it only took him like 18 months or something to get all the world records in the raw.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the mindset these dudes are in, you got to have a certain mindset and be kind of obsessed and outlandish to even take drugs and put the crazy gear on that's going to kill you.
Yeah.
Like, think about this. I don't know how much you're spending on drugs. And if y'all have ever looked at a bench or a squat suit, them things are, $400, $500, $600. I
Yep.
don't know what they are now.
Too much for me.
And then if you're going to the WPO and you don't live in Columbus, Ohio, you got to get plane tickets or drive to Columbus, and you got to pay for a hotel room for 2 or 3 days. And then maybe the payout, which if I'm remembering right, was only, see, we got a picture of one of our guys holding up the check. I want to say it was 2,000, but maybe it was 20,000, but 20,000 seems way too high. I want to say it was like $2,000. I could be wrong. I'll fact check this and tell y'all next week on the podcast. But even if it was $20,000, that doesn't even cover your gear, the drugs you're taking, what I just said, your travel. It's like, it's not even worth it. So what kind of mindset do you got to be in to put this much time into a hobby? Because at the end of the day, powerlifting is still a hobby. Like, powerlifting is not huge to where you're making anything.
Yeah.
Like, what kind of brain do you have to do all that mess and to only, I guess, say that you're a world record holder, which powerlifters get crapped on all the time because there's so many different organizations.
Yeah.
It's like, this world record doesn't stack up to this world record kind of thing going on.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I think, personally, because I lived through it and watched these guys, I think it's ridiculous and kind of crazy. But if you're this, alpha male kind of guy, I guess you'll do anything to be the best in the world. But I don't know. I think you got to draw a line somewhere between saying that you're a world record squatter versus going to go watch your boy play baseball on a Wednesday.
Yeah, there's a line. I mean, I think you do have to sacrifice a lot to become great at anything.
Right.
You gotta have this mindset. I mean,
And you got to be a little obsessed.
yeah, you gotta be obsessed. Like, I mean, that's just how it is. Like,
Yeah.
I was in the gym every day in college instead of going to all those fun events.
Right.
I mean, that's just how you do. And I mean, just for an elite total, which at the end of the day amounts to $0 in my bank account.
What? This
So
podcast isn't making you any money?
this podcast, where's our sponsors?
Yeah.
Where's our If you want a sponsor to Check My Total podcast, it can
Give
be
us a
for it can be
yeah.
a dollar a month. Let's
We'll
get
give you
something
a shout
going.
out.
Yeah, we'll give you a shout out. Maybe you can send us a free shirt or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you do have to be obsessed, and I think you're right. The level, like if you're going to go all in, like you're going to go get the steroid stacks, the hormone stacks, like I mean, you got to train with the boys. Like you're in that environment, and like you've spent all this money, and you're fully committed. You got to train with the boys. Although I find it interesting that throughout the documentary, you have these crazy camaraderies and these people that train, and like I don't go see no one swim because we bench it on Wednesdays, and like no everyone shows up at the gym and everyone works hard. But then all of a sudden, some people who have been loyal and crazy just end up leaving.
I think everybody just has a threshold, and Louie is so straightforward and doesn't take crap that I think people just get fed up with it.
That's true.
Because if you think about all the people that left the gym, they were all the ones that had a brain, like, and were thinking of ways to train differently. And see, Dave Tate, he broke off and created Elite FTS. You know.
Yeah.
What was his name? How do you say it? Win something.
Wow.
Winning.
Matt Winning.
Yeah, there you go. He broke off, did his own thing. All these guys left, which really I don't understand why Chuck left. I forgot all that. Just because he was crazy egotistical.
Yeah, but he left and like it's interesting.
Now he was probably one of the best squatters in the world, but he couldn't bench worth a junk, which is why our guy beat him basically. Our guy was a better bench presser, but that AJ Roberts, he was, like I said, he was the brain that was leading his group. Left, started his own group, beat Westside.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, all the guys that left were the leaders of their group while they were at Westside. So I don't know. I think when you have two, you can't have two leaders. I mean, I don't know how to explain it. You can have everybody in your group. I don't know. Everybody can't be alpha, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that's true.
And, you get a whole bunch of jacked up dudes together. It never ends well.
Yeah, something about powerlifters and, working together.
Yeah.
It don't always work too well. There's always some conflict.
Yeah. So one of my last points, what do you think about Dave Hoff's 3,014 total and his squat depth? That whole controversy.
I mean, look, let's just call it what it is. We know that there are certain federations that don't judge depth this serious, but at the same time, there is also the fact of it is multiply. There are, I don't know how many spotters blocking views. And for some reason, it doesn't matter where you go in this world, but for some reason, at every single federation, except for Iron Boy, everyone is glued to that chair.
Yeah.
They're glued to that. They don't leave that chair.
Yeah.
Don't you leave that chair. And don't you take that tie off either. You sit down there in your corporate little suit there, and you sit there and you flip that little light switch up and down. So,
but you're right. I can't think of any organization that gets on the floor like we do.
Yeah, get on the freaking floor. So here's my thing. You know what? maybe there is a part of me that's like, maybe to a judge who sits in his chair and doesn't move and doesn't try and laser in and see where the hips are, and a dude who's in a mono lift, the little, I don't know, safety thing dangling, 5, 6 spotters. Maybe it did look like he went to depth from someone
Yeah.
like that perspective. Like,
Yeah.
but I mean, it was, you could almost see it from the front that it wasn't to what powerlifting would consider depth. But at the end of the day, the judges gave him 3 white lights, and to be honest, I don't really care.
And that's what Dave Hoff said. He's like, why are y'all trying to get me to discredit my lift? 2 people out of 3 gave me white lights. Like, clearly, I got the lift. And that goes back to what I was saying before, how there's 3 million powerlifting organizations out there, and every single one of them's different. Why are you going to compare this multiply drug head squat to USAPL, supposedly drug free and super strict on their rules? It's, I don't know. But this wasn't in the documentary, but the podcast I was listening to, talking about how there's all these, 20-year-olds out here now that are just hating on Westside when they don't even realize what Westside did for powerlifting.
Yeah.
And, at the end of the day, yeah, I do not agree with the drugs and, gears, whatever. I think it's all fake. I mean, it's not fake that they're lifting, but getting 500, 600 pounds out of a suit, that's not getting strong. That's learning how to use a suit. But you still got to respect what Louie built.
You do. You have to respect how you have to respect some of the things he brought, like the conjugate method. You got to respect the reverse hyper. I don't think anyone's going to try and tell you that's not a good piece of equipment.
Oh, no.
And
go ahead.
Yeah, and I mean, people have their different opinions on the conjugate method. Most people that talk crap about it are people that are raw lifters trying to do it exactly like the geared lifters.
Yeah.
And that doesn't work. I mean, speed works a little different, I think, if you're a raw lifter, you can, like we did, we would always, Louis big on, 40, 50%. We'd probably do about 60-ish%.
Yeah.
70. It's a little different. Yeah, I mean, obviously, if we're using bands or stuff, that'll change that percentage or whatnot. But
and like we said before on this podcast, we really don't even do percentages. It's more or less like, how heavy do I think I can do 3 sets of 8 with?
Yeah.
So 1 week it might be, 60%, but if you're beat up the next week, it's more like 50%.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of I have to do 60% 2 weeks in a row kind of crap. But anyway.
Another thing that we kind of touched on is I wonder if the reason they never went fully to Raw is I wondered if so obviously they don't care about being relatable to the average Joe.
No.
So I wonder, like, I wonder if they just view raw lifters. They probably just view raw lifters as like they are just not as intense and not as willing to work as hard as we are.
But hey, check this out. Louie's what, 70 something?
Yeah.
And he's been doing what he's been doing for 40 some years. Have you ever tried to get your dad to change his thinking on what he was doing? Something that he's been doing for 30 years. It's like, why don't you try to do it this way?
Yeah.
Man,
yeah.
Older people, they're not going to change their ways just because something's cool on the internet. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I think that's a big reason. Louie just likes what he's doing. So why change something if you love what you're doing?
Yeah. So do you think I got a prediction. I think equipped lifting is going to make a comeback. Maybe not multiply, but I think it'll be a small spike in the equipped lifting world. I think it'll happen when people our generation start getting real banged up.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
This is what I think is going to happen in power. Right now, equipped lifting it's still there, but it's very much in the back corner when it comes to raw lifting. Raw lifting's in the front runner right now. But what I think is going to happen is you get people our age start getting dinged up and stuff. I bet you in 15 to 25 years, I bet you equipped lifting is going to have a surge.
I think so. And to kind of nail that home, which was going to be the way I was going to wrap this podcast up, is the WPO. Their doors got shut, like I said, in 2007, 2008, when the Arnold kicked them out. Well, they made a return last year. They had their first meet back, and some guys that lifted in our gym for a little while. They were never really a part of our gym. But anyways, a couple guys we know lifted in that competition last year. But anyway, they're having another one this year, and this director, the Michael Fahey, well, actually says from the producers, so maybe it's not Michael Fahey. But anyways, these Westside versus the World people are going to broadcast the WPO this year on ESPN3, which is what you watch just only online. Like go to the web browser, or I think you can bring ESPN3 up on ESPN Plus now. But yeah, so Powerlifting WPO is about to be on ESPN this year, which I've already forgot what the date is.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's October. But yeah, all that crazy stuff's gonna come back around, and especially with this documentary out.
Yeah.
I think it's just gonna shine light on geared lifting again. But you're exactly right. All these raw people right now are going to get beat up, and they'll get back into it.
They will. One more thing I want to talk about is what. So at the beginning of Westside, people kind of came to Louie, and he made these world record holders, and he got just these crazy characters coming to him.
Mm-hmm.
But towards the end, and I guess now even, he was recruiting the best of the best.
Right.
And so, I don't know, part of me wondered, it's like, well, it's kind of changed because he went from, I guess, kind of making the best of the best of people. Like he only recruits the best of the best. So now it's kind of like, well, he just gets the crazy freaks. And so like, I thought it was interesting that since he now has like these qualifying, totals that you have to do to just get into the gym. It's kind of like, I don't know. It's kind of interesting to take your training like that, because then it becomes, well, how good are your methods and stuff, because almost anything can work on a freak, which I know his methods work because it's worked for like tons of people. But it's just interesting how when he's gotten older and he hit a lot of his main crew left, now he only works with like the top guys.
Well, I know eventually you just hit a point to where you're tired of fooling with novice people or people that aren't serious about what they're doing.
That's
so
true.
if you're getting the best of the best, then you know that they're actually serious about what they're doing. But if you are the man, which Louie is, and if your methods are what they're all, cracked up to be, if you take an already elite powerlifter and then you make him 4 times elite in like different weight classes and everything, then you know what you're doing. Because you're not just, piggybacking off of, I trained this freak and, he did this freak thing one time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But for example, we tried to take in one of the guys that we know that hit elite twice. He did it once raw, then did it once single ply. And we took him in and we were working with him. And unfortunately, his life caught up to him. You know, he had a wife and a couple of kids, and he just got out of the game. But our point was, yeah, he's great, but we could make him 10 times better than what he even is. So I think that's the real testament of a trainer, or, you know, somebody that's a professional at their craft, is taking people that don't have any talent or anything at all and making them great. But if you can take great people and make them legends, I think that's important too.
I agree.
I
think that's about all the talking points I had.
Yeah. And just to throw this out there, you know, even Kobe Bryant had a trainer.
It's true.
Michael Jordan, I'm pretty sure he had a trainer too.
Everyone's got a trainer.
Yeah, man. Yeah, if you want to break this thing down, I need to eat some supper.
Yeah, dog. So we're coming at you live with the review of Westside versus the World. Ladies and gentlemen, great documentary. It was a good look into the eyes of the beginnings of the sport when there was no AC, there were no mirrors in the gym, no Instagrams, no Facebooks, no selfies in the gym. You don't even take your phones out because you don't have a phone. And if you do have a phone, it probably don't work in that dungeon. Ladies and gentlemen, there's no signal in there. And that's when you get strong. You get strong when you take your eyes off the world and put them on the weights. That's how you get strong. That's how you build a solid foundation. People, get your eyes off your phone. Get them in the gym. Focus on what you need to do. Stop listening to everyone tell you what to do. Everyone's trying to tell you what to do. Meanwhile, they're all driving in the left lane, clogging it all up when you're supposed to be in the right lane. You cannot do that. You can't drive like a fool. So, ladies and gentlemen, take care of your pets. Water them daily. Give them some snacks. Watch the documentary. And remember, apes only jump when you scratch your left underarm on your one foot. Hopscotch, bagosh, we're out.
We're out.
Are you tired of having to pause on the bench press? Well, September 14th, Iron Boy is reintroducing the Touch and Go. Come out to North Wilkesboro, North Carolina to support the event. It is the regional IBP push-pull and bench press classic. We hope to see you there.
Please subscribe and thank you for listening. Be sure to follow @CheckMyTotal on Instagram for all the latest updates.